Rise, please. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you, Lord, for this day. Thank you for a chance for us to meet in the Rules Committee. And Lord, we thank you for the rain, but dear Lord, we sure ask you to spread out a little bit, but you know the best. And just be with us, Lord, as we go through this committee meeting, and give us knowledge and strength to do our work, and be with everyone as we return home tonight. Thank you, Lord. Amen.
Call the roll.
Chuck Hoskin Jr.
Here.
David Walkenstick.
Here.
Bill Anglin.
Here.
Jack Baker.
Here.
Joe Bird. Julia Coates. Jody Fishinghawk. Here. Meredith Fraley. Janelle Fulbright. Present. Don Garvin. Frankie Hargis. Present. Hannah Glory Jordan. Present. Lee Keener.
Tommy.
Dick Lay.
Here.
Curtis Snell.
Here.
David Thornton. Kara Cowan Watts. Honey. We do have a quorum.
Now entertain a motion to approve in toto the two sets of minutes, April 11th and April 25th, 2013. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Ms. Vargas, Councilman Walker-Stick, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Madam Speaker, do you have a motion for me?
Yes, I do. I would like to make a motion to move all old business and new business and to the front before reports. And I would like to ask leave to move new business number 1 to the very front.
New business one to the front, and then
And then the
thereafter
rest just
all
go
of our-
in second in the order.
Very good. And reports at the very end.
Yes.
Correct? All right,
Thank
we
you.
have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right. Agenda stands moved. So we'll now move to that new business item number 1. And Madam Speaker, you are the sponsor, and we have
Yes.
some guests.
Yes, I would like to draw your attention to a resolution that is in front of you that will substitute for the resolution that is in the book for new business item number 1. This is a resolution honoring retiring drug dog Runa and authorizing Cherokee Nation Marshal Service to retire the dog with the dog handler. And we have Runa here today with his handler, Brian Ketcher. I would be glad to read this. There's some really outstanding things that this team has done on behalf of Cherokee Nation. I would like to read this one. Whereas the Cherokee Nation Marshal Service has a 7-year-old Dutch Shepherd named Runa, trained in narcotics detection, training criminal apprehension, and handler protection, and has been instrumental in numerous felony and misdemeanor narcotics cases, with many being requests from other law enforcement agencies for narcotics detection teams, as well as several criminal apprehensions. And Runa has been responsible for the seizure of illegal narcotics, weapons, cash, and vehicles used in the illegal possession and transportation of narcotics. I would also like to, well, I'll just go ahead and read the rest of it. Runa has developed some health issues, and it's now time for him to retire from active service. And whereas Marshal Brian Ketcher, a 17-year law enforcement veteran, has been with the Cherokee Nation Marshal Service since 2005 and became a canine handler when Runa was obtained by the Marshal Service. Marshal Ketcher and Runa trained together for 3 months in Joplin, Missouri, obtained the Oklahoma Council of Law Enforcement Education and Training certification for narcotics detection teams, and continued certification training throughout the past 6 years, and worked together as a team on many cases. Marshal Ketcher and his family have become very attached to Runa, and Marshal Ketcher is willing to accept full responsibility for the medical and daily needs that Runa will require without any further liability to the Cherokee Nation. I would like to put this in the form of a motion and ask each one of us, well, we just need to give this team a hand. They have done an outstanding job. And they have a new dog that's either here or coming.
It's coming.
And he's earned the right to retire. He's having some seizure problems. And no better place to go than somebody that has been with him daily since he arrived here 7 years ago. So I would put that in form of a motion.
Second.
We had a second by Council Hardison. Madam Speaker, would you entertain co-sponsors?
Yes, I would. I would love to have co-sponsors on this. Would everybody want to, looks like everybody.
All right, very good. Any remarks from the marshal or?
Thank you for that. Anytime you lose a marshal for retirement or whatever, it hurts. Bruno has been a great dog, a great marshal for us. And as sad as it is to have him leave, I'm very happy that it's going to the handler. It could work out very bad if we didn't. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Passes. Thank you. Thank you, Marshall.
Thank you. And thank you for taking this on. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Our,
He's at home now.
He is a very well-mannered dog. I met him before this meeting, and he sits and does everything on command. He is a good animal. I've got a little dog at home that could learn from him.
next item of business is our first item under old business. Council Fishing Hawk, what kind of matters act?
I'd like to. I'd like to withdraw this until, or pull it till next month.
Or do you want to withdraw it and resubmit it at a later time, or do
Yes,
you want
yes,
to?
yes.
Okay, very good. So it's withdrawn. Thank you, Council. We now move to old business item number 2. This also is under
Let's
your
just
name.
leave it there, say it.
Do you want to withdraw or take withdraw? Withdraw.
No, I want to table it.
This one you want to take. We have a motion to table. We have a second. We have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Table for a month. Old business item number 3.
Could I take that
Yes,
one?
ma'am. Please do.
Number 3 is in the book, and it is in addition to our election code, specifically on page 2. It's under tab 3 of old business, and page 2 of the amendment. The amendment is in red. It says under selection of watchers that no candidate for any elective office in the Cherokee Nation shall be a watcher. We already have that on our books. And this would be the additional language that I would propose. And no one in an elective office for the Cherokee Nation is defined in section 3A, parentheses 14 of this code, shall be a watcher if they're currently serving in that elective office capacity during an election. In addition, no former tribal council, former principal chief, or former deputy chief shall serve as watchers in any Cherokee Nation elections. This hasn't become a problem until this election cycle, and folks, we don't need to be standing over the ballot boxes. I just have a real firm belief that borders, if Don crosses the line that says that we might possibly just by our presence be interfering with an election. So I'm asking you all to consider consider passing this, and we had one other.
Madam Speaker, direct your attention to section 4B. It just corrects really a scrivener's error.
Yes.
A stray was not struck the last time we changed the residency requirement for at-large candidates. So that's
So it will apply to everyone.
Sure.
And I would put that in form of a motion.
We have a second with Councilor Fishing Hawk. Councilor Cowan.
Thank you. I don't recall the law beforehand, so I want to make sure that all minds are clear saying they couldn't, because I recall that there were 2 people seated at this body that were watchers in the room during the last election. Because I have records of it, and I forgot to get out of the house with them today. But correct me if I'm wrong, but
Are you wanting to know, are you wanting to know if there were 2 city council members who were watchers, or are you wanting to know what the old law said?
it's both, because if the old law said that, then we had 2 people that were on this body that were watching the last election too. So I'm trying to make sure that we understand where we're at today before we move forward and change where we're at today.
I don't know the facts relating to that, but Madam Speaker, she would look to yield to you.
I don't know. I don't believe there were any watchers last time from this body.
The old language, if I could interject, the old language said no candidate for any elective office in the Cherokee Nation, so it would have been a candidate for office being a watcher. That's what the old law prohibited. And council, your information is that there was a candidate on the ballot.
That there were 2 seated council members that were watchers during the 2011 election process.
Okay, well, so the old language just said no candidate for elective office, so they would be a candidate. This language would correct what the speaker and I agree is a deficiency, which is allows a sitting, or as we see, a former council member from, or principal chief from sitting. So this would go further than the old law did.
Well, I understand there's documentation at the election commission, plus there's witnesses that show that 2 council people that were seated at the time were watchers during the 2011 election that now find that, I guess because it's not them, would want to change the law today. But even if we pass this today, which I really don't have any problem, because after I started investigating and asking questions, people did feel very threatened by the whole situation, and now they've lost their jobs. I think they feel like because they were there helping with the election process as citizens. But even if we change it today, it can't be effective to this election, correct?
Yes, it will be effective if it passes through council and is signed before the June 22nd meeting, it affects this election.
Not when people have already filed watcher lists and stuff. That would be contrary to the Constitution and make it retroactively effective. And it would affect candidates that would lose their watchers, and there's no guarantee of replacements. Right?
I would propose that if it passes today and goes to council and is signed before June 22nd, it is enforced because it has an emergency clause on it. And I'm not willing to remove that emergency clause.
And if you yield, I mean, the issue is whether someone becomes a watcher when they're put on a list, or someone becomes a watcher when they're a watcher. That's the issue. And reasonable minds might disagree about that. I tend to agree with the speaker that a watcher doesn't become a watcher until they're a watcher. But again, reasonable people can disagree, and when disagreements arise over statutes, the Attorney General can provide an interpretation. Attorney General's office. Someone could get an interpretation from the Election Commission. This is not unusual. So I yield back to the speaker. Then you have some others on the list.
So you just took my time done then?
No, you're not done. I thought that she
Okay.
had the floor because I thought you had yielded to her.
Yeah.
Council,
I will give back to
We're just trying to go in on
Councilor Watts.
I mean, I don't know, maybe our attorney wants to weigh in on it. So I guess we're just going to use tribal law to take out watchers for a new candidate, or what are we going to do here?
Well,
Because what's good for the goose is good for the gander. We got 2 people that were watchers trying to change the law now, and I have a problem.
what is not in this legislative act is the rest of the language in the original law, and that's not being deleted. It's still going to be in there. All that's in there is just what is changed. So you'll still have the selection of watchers, the procedure, and all that stuff. And it says that the election commission may invite watchers to precincts during any election and that sort of thing. So there's still some provisions there that is not being repealed. The rest of that section C is still in there. It just adds that provision about.
I guess my question is, Diane, is if it's passed today, how can it be effective for the election that's already in process, especially when our election laws say you can't change rules 90 days before even a candidate's filing date, and paperwork's already been submitted, watchers have already been submitted, and they've even been assigned.
Well, you know,
So it would make something retroactive after it's already in play.
Assistant AG Nancy Morton and I tried to, we thought that there was a provision about the 90-day change. Do you know where that is? 'Cause
It is
we-
actually, I believe, in the Election Commission's rules and regulations, which is also supposed to be secured 90 days before the filing point of an election.
So that's why we couldn't find it in the statute. That's why we couldn't find the statute or the Constitution as we was looking. Okay. I'll yield to the AG's office. He can have any questions.
And I hate to give any shoot from the hip answer at this point, but we can certainly look into that and provide a response as quickly as possible in that regard. Again, like I said, I would just hate to give a shoot from the hip answer on something of this importance.
Everybody at council meeting.
Yeah, that should be fine.
So I guess it's pretty clear, in my mind, I guess I don't have a law degree or any kind of bar pass, but if something's already in play, everything's been assigned, there's already going forward with an election that's in process, and we suddenly change the laws, what are we like, 22 days out?
23?
23? That the election just, suddenly we're going to get to upend everything and change the rules on who can be watchers and stuff. It seems like it really breaks our constitutional rules around what's retroactive or not.
And again, there may be a number of layers to look at in that regard, and we'll be happy to take a look at that and provide a response.
Okay, thank you.
Before
Thank you,
I-
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Before I move on to the next counselor, I have a question. If it's deemed that it doesn't apply to this election, it doesn't invalidate the amendment here, it just simply means it applies to the next election.
That'd be correct.
Thank you. And next I have Councilor Fishing.
Oh, I just want to know, somebody can tell us who the watchers were.
I have no idea.
I want to go on record that I was not.
I was not.
I was not.
If you were a watcher, raise your hand. Let's get this out in the open.
Because
Let's just go down the line. I was not a watcher.
In 2011, I was not a
2011.
watcher.
Here we go. Roll call.
I was not.
I was not a watcher. Okay.
Because that way we'll know.
I was
exactly
not a
what
watcher.
I wouldn't. Watchers are the people that stand in there while they're casting the ballot. This is during the election. Are we talking something else here that we're supposed to know about?
Any part of the recount, and that is also
That
watching.
doesn't
Oh, yeah.
apply to this.
Yes, same
Oh,
thing,
I don't, it's,
same thing.
I don't think so. There was I mean, for example, during the court order review of the ballots, there was a whole host of people that were in that room that didn't fall under the statute. So this is watchers within the meaning of the statute.
At the polls.
So far, everybody's sitting up here.
Watchers
a
at
watcher.
the polls.
I wasn't a watcher.
I was not.
No watchers. Lee, you are married. You're the only two left.
We didn't.
What are we accused now? Watchers, you're the only two left.
No.
Well,
Watchers under this are the watchers at the initial election. If you're talking about recounts, if it's a court-ordered one, everybody was there. I think probably everybody went to the courthouse on that.
The parties were allowed to select people to come because of the court order. These are really apples and oranges.
This is
Anything-
not the law that
Councilor Fishing,
applies to
anything
that.
else?
No, that's all.
Okay, Councilor Baker.
My question was on the 90-day. It's been addressed already.
Councilor Byrd.
I'm good.
And Madam Speaker, you may have addressed it, but you had
I
your...
think I've already addressed it. I would throw one additional item though. People select their watchers for the initial elections. They're drawn on the, I believe, I forget what they call that date. If for some reason they can't show up, then even up to the day of the election, they can draw another watcher out of the basket. There's still names in that basket. So it's not like you don't have watchers. It's just you're not going to have public official watchers if we pass this.
Anything further, Councilor Angle?
Yeah. That may have answered my question. I'm not sure, but will these candidates have the opportunity to select a watcher of their choice?
All I know is they selected them, they put them in a basket, and there are other names in that basket. So if someone gets sick, declines, doesn't show up, they have the option of going back and selecting more out of that basket. That basket is not empty, because it's my understanding that you could select so many watchers, and there's so many watchers in that basket, and they weren't all drawn on the high noon draw. So if it's a matter of having more watchers, there's watchers in that basket. I think that's what you're asking, Bill.
Anything further, Councilor? Anything further? All right. All right, further, this is an act, what's your roll call? Councilor.
Thank you. So I don't think it's an issue of whether or not there's a huge pool of watchers for everyone involved. It's an issue of whether or not the candidate will be able to replace the watchers they need to ensure that for their campaign's interests are represented.
The election commission
And
is
I'm not
historically
betting on
in
it.
control of the mechanics of the pool of watchers, and I think they would remain in control of that through their own rules and regulations. So I think the commission is adept at implementing this kind of language. Anything further? Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll make one comment in that I think it was 2 months ago we were going to change a voting law or something to do with the election, but it was stated that it was too close to the election to have a vote on anything to change it. But here we are because of what I would consider who are watchers that were getting ready to vote for this. And I agree, it can be problematic depending on who the watchers are that are on council, that just to remove all, I guess I would say, maybe a threatening posture from a council member or a perceived threat, that it would be probably good to remove the council person or any of the other people. But I don't know about if it should be for this election, but we'll hear from the AG's office on that. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Councilor. All right, now proceed to a vote. Charlotte?
Lee Keener,
Yes.
Dick White,
Yes.
Curtis Snell,
Yes.
David Thornton,
Yes.
David Walkenstick, Kara Cowan Watts,
Abstain.
Bill England,
No.
Jack Baker,
No.
Joe Byrd,
Yes.
Julia Coates,
No.
Jody Fishinghawk,
Yes.
Meredith Fraley,
No.
Janelle Fulbright,
Yes.
Don Garvin,
Yes.
Frankie Hargis,
Yes.
Chuck Hoskin Jr.,
Yes.
Hannah Gloria Jordan.
Yes.
We have 12 yes, 4 no, and 1 abstention.
Now move to old business number 4. Madam Speaker, this is on the tax compact. I think that's still a work in progress.
We want to keep this on the agenda, but I'm going to table it for this month because they're not.
Table second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I did meet with the AG's office, and Sarah's here. She's going to move forward with more negotiations starting hopefully next week. And I did send out an email to all the council members to give them an update on the pursuant to Councilor Garvin's question. So it's going to move forward, but we do need to table it for today.
Okay. Next item is old business item number 5, with respect to the affinity tags. Councilor Baker.
Did we table it?
Yeah, I thought we took it. Did we not? Yeah, we took a vote.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right,
For
item-
the same reason, because we're waiting on the approval of the compact, I will move to table to next month.
Very good.
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Item number 6 is a resolution opposing House Resolution 1066, which would appear to erode the Indian Arts and Crafts Act. Madam Speaker, would you move that into?
Yes, this is a resolution opposing 113 Congressional House Resolution 1066, amendments to the Indian Arts and Crafts Act. I believe this was redefining the definition of Indian, is that correct?
Well, it appears to me,
And let me put it in the form of motion.
Okay, motion.
Second.
And if you yield just for a moment, Madam
Yes.
Speaker, but behind the resolution in the book is the actual language of the amendment, which seems to focus on adding into the definition of Indian members of Indian organizations, which seems to be a pretty loose definition. Passed out, counselors, in front of you is a summary of the Indian Arts and Crafts Act, which I know many of you are familiar with, and many are more expert than I am on the subject. And then behind that summary is the actual language of the current act. It seems to be the consensus around Indian country, including from our 5 tribes meeting only last month, or earlier this month, that this is a House Resolution 1066 is a full piece of legislation. So this is just expressing the sense of the council that we're opposed to it. So I yield back to you, Madam Speaker, if you have anything else.
And I believe the concern is, well, there's different problems, but C2 is a real concern because you don't even have to tie yourself to being qualified for membership in an Indian tribe. How that means the definition of Indian. It really dilutes what the definition of an Indian is if you don't even have to draw back to a membership in a tribe.
And Madam Speaker, correct me if I'm wrong, but at the 5 tribes meeting, there was a resolution passed about this. It does not identical language, but it's the same idea. Any further discussion? Councilor Collins.
Thank you. The current definition under the Indian Arts and Crafts Act is, from what I can determine, is how a lot of these fraudulent Cherokee groups were created. And that gave them some sense of identity as an Indian. That when they're implementing the act, they're supposed to look at state recognition as being very formal in a legal sense, and that it has to be something that's passed through a legislature and signed by governor by each state. Which sometimes will help clear out some of the, what we consider, I would hope the Cherokee Nation still considers fake groups. So Indian Arts and Crafts Act, they're already really lax. From our perspective as Cherokee governments, when it deals with our fake groups, we're always fighting. But this is going to be catastrophic if it's allowed to move forward. So I'm really thankful that everyone brought this forward, and I'd like to be added as a sponsor. And I think that we need to be even more active and ask that the chief actually add this to the lobbying list and work on it. It could move forward. And this is how they create an identity around stuff. And they'll use this to get government grant monies and such. So we know that this is historically what's happened, and it started in terms of federal law in the Indian Arts and Crafts Act. Even though there's good intentions and it does good things, it allows for this other definition of Indian that we know is not how we deal with Indian country in terms of consultation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you, Councilor. We'll add Councilor Cowan Watts to the list, and Councilor Byrd tells me that because of the action of the 5 tribes, it really is on our lobbying radar screen, and I know Courtney's there, she's nodding her head, so.
That's correct.
That's good. We're good. All right, very good. Madam Speaker.
I would make a request that ask how many would like to be added as sponsors, because I would like to be added as sponsor. I have a feel on several board of it.
Anyone want to be added as a sponsor?
Everybody?
All right, so we've got everyone on board. It's resolution. There's a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. We now move to our first item or our second item under new business. Madam Speaker, this is a surplus donation.
Yes, the marshal had come to us and they had a couple of requests of entities that have a cross-deputizing agreement with them. They have procured some new vehicles and they have some older vehicles, and they're asking that number 2 is a resolution authorizing Cherokee Nation Marshal Service to donate surplus vehicles to law enforcement agencies cross-deputized with the Marshal Service. One is the Drug Task Force,
The District 27 task
which District 27, which encompasses, I believe, 4
Four
counties.
counties.
That would be Cherokee, Sequoia, Adair, and Wagner.
Wagner.
And then the other is Northeastern State University. And these are cars that are not needed by the Marshal Service any longer.
Yeah, they're high mileage cars that we can put in the service.
The one to the Drug Task Force is for their drug dog, to transport their drug dog to sites. And the other is needed there at Northeastern State University, and I put that in form of a motion.
Second? Second. Second by Councilor Walking Stick. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, we are now at item number 3. This is a resolution to authorize, new business item number 3. This is a resolution to authorize, to ratify rather, litigation in the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia. This relates to the ongoing pursuit of the underpaid contract service costs. Madam Speaker, would you?
I would put that in the form of a motion. It's under number 3, under your new tab. This deals with the support costs that we should be getting, but now it's taking some litigation to make it happen.
Second.
Second by Councilor Thornton. Ms. Handley's here to answer any questions. I know you all have been working hard on this, and tribes nationally have been working hard on it, and we've come to this, unfortunately. But yes, Councilor Brennan.
Will we be working with Lloyd Miller, law firm there in Washington,
Yes.
D.C.?
Yes, and a couple of points that I want to make is this pertains in particular to the IHS claims that have been filed. We are working with DOI and IHS on contract support costs. We are part of the recent settlement, or I shouldn't say settlement, the recent court case that was decided upon. That is a ongoing discussion. It's probably going to be anywhere between 2 and 3 years before we see any funding from that. That's a class action suit, and we are, the attorneys that are working on that particular class action are working with DOI and the Justice Department to come to resolution on that. This is pertaining to the IHS claims that we submitted. It's under the Contract Disputes Act claim. We submitted those claims. They have not been acted upon by IHS. We haven't received a rejection or a denial of any form. There's 2 options available to us at this point. Under the Contract Disputes Act, we can, at our option, we can deem that those have been denied. And that's basically what we're opting to do. And I will say that we had a conference call with Todd Henry, Gordon Miller, and I to discuss our options and what would be the best action for us to take at this point. And again, basically it comes down to 2 options. We can go through the Civilian Board of Contract Appeals, Board of Federal Court. Lloyd outlined the pros and cons, and we feel it would be in the best interest of the nation to pursue the federal court option. Having said that, the cost to the nation right now is nothing for us to pursue that. The Sonosky Law Firm, with Lloyd Miller being the lead, is doing this on a contingency basis, which is the same as what he did during the other litigation that we've had regarding contract support costs that went all the way to the Supreme Court. So also on the ongoing work that we're doing, we're part of a coalition of a number of tribes. So that keeps our costs down. We share costs with all the other tribes that are in that coalition. Myself and our staff here at the Nation are also doing some of the work. So we actually filed the CDA claims, and that puts more, I can just say I cost much less than Lloyd Miller. So, but I'll be glad to answer any other questions that you may have. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Hamby. Thank you, Councilor Fraley. Any further discussion? All right, we'll now move to
Karen.
Oh, Karen.
Thank you. How long do we expect the litigation to last, potentially? I know we can't predict that, but just an idea, because I know it was many years on the last one.
Well, keep in mind that there's a whole host of tribes that are deciding for themselves what would be in their best interest. There are a few, I understand, that have already taken the federal court route, so there are a few that are in front of us. But it's my understanding that basically they are all being heard by Judge Contreras, I believe is how you pronounce his name. How long that will take, and of course Lloyd Miller would be much better at answering that than I would, but we do want to get in the queue, and we've been successful in how we've approached this in the past. We are somewhat unique in the sense of the claims that we have filed. We filed two separate types of claims. One is for the original amounts unpaid, and we've also filed for consequential damages. In other words, had they paid us the full contract support, we could have increased our services, received third-party revenue, and so forth. In other words, there's additional damages resulting from them not paying the original CSD.
Vicki, do we anticipate it'll be like a 2-3 year process, or possibly even a 10, or?
It would probably be better if there's specific questions about the litigation that we could take those between you and the AG's office privately, because we're in the cusp of filing litigation, and so we cannot be the best of dates for some of these questions.
Well, thank you, Sarah. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. We're going to add Councilor Fraley at her request as a co-sponsor. All right, we'll now proceed to load all of the Madam Speaker. Add Madam Speaker as a co-sponsor. Show of hands of co-sponsorship. Everybody? Councilor, everybody. Okay. We'll proceed to those resolution. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. We'll now proceed to new business item number 4. Councilor Fishing Pond.
We talked to the chief's office, and they're handling it through there, so I'm withdrawing the resolution.
That was, that was on the 4th. Okay. Item number 5 is a new business act relating to building construction. Councilor Lay, would you take that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm bringing this up today basically for discussion only, although I wanted for you folks on the council to see kind of where I'm going here. Apparently recently in the on the new clinic situation, a building design and a theme for the building in my area didn't quite fit our local area. And I found out that apparently there's been a theming vision from C&B for several years that they didn't like doing, and I certainly didn't like what they brought forward to the table, and it took quite a while to get through all of the personnel necessary to try to effect some communication. And so what I'm boiling down this to is whenever a new building is built in an area, let's say if we add on to the nutrition center at NOAA because it's way too small. Those of us who live in that area know about how many people it should seat. And we also know the area, if there's any theming to it, I doubt that there's going to be, but if we build a nutrition center site in Collinsville, we're talking about that. I think the counselors from that area should be involved with that for the sizing and perhaps the theming. And it seemed like that forces were just running away with themes that did not fit my area on the clinic. And that's where I'm coming from on this. I'm going to put it up for discussion because I've had people ask me, well, what about the complex itself? Are we going to only allow, counselors from this district to be involved with the complex, because the complex involves us all. Building down the road involves a counselor from this district. The complex is a little different, and we've already got a lot of green roofs going. We probably don't want to put a red roof up. And so I'm opening this up for your discussion. I'd like to hear what the body has to advise me on.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Fulbright.
Thank you. I saw the architect's rendering of what it was supposed to be up there in your area, and I agree with you. What we had at Redbird proposed was quite sensible, and yours was frankly a little bit outlandish in my opinion, but I'm not the powers that be. And I couldn't exactly figure it out. It looked very costly. And I thought the money could be used somewhere else. We just need a good, sensible building that we can put doctors and healthcare providers in. And I didn't agree with it either, but like I said, we weren't asked. And I think you bring up a very valid point. But we do have red roofs down at Redbird, and we're quite happy with it, and we hope the new additions match. So what we've seen down there, we're very happy with, but I don't know why they didn't use, or at least confer as to something that I would call more sensible. That's all I have to say about it, but I share your concern for your building.
Councilor Fulbright, any further discussion? Well, Councilor, are you content to for now withdraw, or do you want to table?
I think I want to table this.
Second.
And if somebody, yeah, thank you.
Okay. So table for a month, Councilor. All right. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. New business item number 6. This is discussion of possible action concerning ball teams and livestock funding. Madam Speaker.
Yes, we worked this past month on just turning the sports team into a situation like the cemetery funding. This wording goes exactly back to our cemetery wording, where they will come to us, they will fill out a little 2-page report, they will provide the receipts, they can get $500 a year, and as we run low in that account, we would load it back up just like we do the cemetery. Requirements are the same. I did not put the livestock funding in there because that has to be handled a little bit different, so we'd like the ability, if this is okay with the body, to work on that for another month or 2. That's not urgent. But the sports team money, we haven't, our young people have not been able to access it. Our teams have not been able to access it. It was like a 8-page application. You must put the emblems on uniforms, And by the time they got through looking at the requirements, they knew that there wasn't any money there to really do what they wanted to do, which was supportive services with the ball teams. And as you all know, ball teams are just, it's going on right now. So this was the one that we tried to get ready. It is in front of you. It mirrors our cemetery funding, and I would put that in the form of a motion, and I could be wrong and I could stand corrected, but I think this is just part of our policies now. So if we pass it, I don't know that it goes to council. I believe it just becomes, like the cemetery policy, it becomes part of our policies.
Second.
I just have one comment, and I don't want to hinder implementation of this. The one observation I would make is in my neck of the woods, there's lots of Cherokee boys and girls that play sports. Finding a team where there's 51% of them are Cherokee is almost never happens, but they still like to play ball. And this language won't help them, but we might work on something that might help them down the road. I don't want to hold this up because there's teams that need it now.
Well, and there is the additional youth grant program that can be done individually. And at some point, we may want to look at that so that we can move that one along a little bit quicker. But if y'all will remember, the youth grant allows the individual player to apply and get the money individually for their extracurricular activity and then just use it for their needs. This is more of the group would be applying. Now, I sure don't, if y'all want to reduce that rate, this just mirrored the cemetery. We should have some percentage, I would think, in there for the ball teams. And you may want to see how many apply for this money over the summer and relook at this a little bit later, because you don't want to make it such that you've got 92 schools and you've got however many little ball teams there is organized around those schools. We may find we can't afford it if we lower too much. But this was what I had Diane, our attorney, do was just take the cemetery thing, try to turn it into what we're doing with the cemetery, because the cemetery funds seem to be working very well. Everybody seems to be very, very happy with those. They're bringing their receipts in. We put those 2 paragraphs in there that if you don't bring your receipts in within a reasonable amount of time, and we put 6 months in here, I think that's long enough to give everybody time to bring their receipts in, that they couldn't participate next year. So I'm sure open to whatever y'all want to do. This is your fund. We just brought it back over here, and this is for your people. I'm just trying to get it where you can get that sports team money out to your teams.
I'm in full support of getting this where the money's more available to the sports team, but I just want to make sure we are cutting out the community service portion where they had to do community service when they received this.
Yeah, what we're doing now is just like the cemetery. We've
They
got
just have
that
to
wording
turn
in
in.
there that, you know, if this ever did become a preference deal, that if you were trying to help yourself, we'd give you preference. We've never had to do that, though, with the cemetery, but with that wording is in there. But it doesn't require you to do it. It just says if, basically, just like cemetery money, if it became a point where we couldn't sustain it, then we would look to give a preference to those that maybe were had raised $500 and then we matched them with $500. But we've never had to do that on the cemetery funding, and I'm hopeful that this body will treat this like the cemetery funding, as long as we have valid people coming and requesting it, that we reload the account on an as-needed basis.
Yeah, and that's great. It's just, that's the biggest complaint I get is from the T-ball teams. They're 5 and 6 years old. What do you expect them to do? You know, they can't be out picking up trash on the side of the road. And so it's, so I'm good with that.
Any further discussion? All right. Go ahead.
So, thank you. So just to clarify, though, we do have that act for service, self-help act. And so I don't know how we get around. I think everything requires self-help. I don't know if that's what Councilman Hargis was referring to or not, but it applies it to everything that is given as programs or services. So I don't know how that's done, if to make sure it's fulfilled.
My suggestion is to have our attorney research that act, and to the extent we need to modify it, we should, because we don't need to let that idea stand in the way of kids playing ball. Not every nickel that comes out of Cherokee Nation needs to have a piece of service. But that's my opinion.
I agree. I mean, we want the healthy nation, and that's, if they're playing ball, they're moving.
They're doing a service to their nation by getting out and playing ball, and they're not doing something else. All right, we'll take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Thank you, Administrator. Can you work on that?
And I believe I am correct, this is within our body, so it doesn't go any further. We've not ever sent it, our policies any further.
I agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, we will get with Gail. There will be a one-pager application, just like the cemetery, with the tax thing attached to it. 2 pages. And Gail is handling it now, so if you all need the applications, we'll try to get those together within, say, a week, and they'll be available to you all to take out to your communities.
That's good.
I would like livestock team funding. We have it here. Do you want to just, what's the pleasure of the committee? Do you want to pull that and have me put it back on later while we work on it, or you just want to table that portion for a month? What's the pleasure of the...
Motion to table the livestock portion for a month. Second by Councilman Hargis. All in favor say aye. All opposed say no. Item number 7 relates to community meetings and mail-out expenses. Madam Speaker.
I'm pulling that.
Pulling that, thank you. Next, item number 8, Councilor Layer, with respect to non-disclosure agreements.
Yes, Chairman, thank you. The reason I brought this up is I've got a FOIA in that apparently cannot be answered because a lot of 10 and 8 and 6-year-old non-disclosure agreements with companies that we are no longer doing business with. Apparently, we've got a new windmill company, and I've asked Attorney Barker Harrell to try to work me through why a non-disclosure agreement is still valid after all these years, and a different company has now taken that over.
We're going to double team.
I thought you were.
Councilor Lay, did you pass out the summary on non-disclosure? Did you check it out?
Yes, ma'am, I did. Thank you.
I did put together a summary of non-disclosure agreement and shared it with Assistant AG Odell. And I asked her to come and discuss this because she handles a lot of the contracts. But to answer your specific question, Councilor Lay, even though the company may be gone, the agreement, if there's a non-disclosure agreement that it has a time frame on it, that agreement is still there until the time frame ends, even though the company may still be there. That part of the agreement is still valid, and violating that agreement could cause us to have litigation. So a contract is an agreement that you agree to the terms. And even though the part of the contract may end with that company being participating, the non-disclosure agreement, if it has a time frame, it's still valid. I'll turn that over to Elizabeth. The other thing is just doing business that we do, and we do a great number of business. There's many vendors and many companies who don't want to disclose their terms that they do with us. Sometimes we get a better deal. They don't want to know. The other thing is that we have a lot of proprietary information about things that we are doing, like with C&B, maybe building new or developing new casinos and things. And I know in the Tulsa area, the Creeks and the Osages would love to know everything that we're doing. And so there's a lot of non-disclosure for that too, to protect our proprietary interest to make sure that we don't get we're gonna have competition, but we don't want them to know everything that we're doing.
As to the non-disclosure agreements, it wouldn't hurt, the FOIA won't prevent you from reviewing it, coming in and inspecting.
And
Copy
I
is
understand that part, but you must understand, here's the deal from a non-lawyer's point of view. I've got to sign a non-disclosure agreement to go over and look at non-disclosure agreements. That just doesn't make sense to me. These folks have been out of the loop and out of our business for quite some time, in some cases. And I'm not asking to release technical company secrets. What I'm asking for is pretty simple. I think you've seen the board.
It would depend on, I'd have to know the specific contracts and timeframes and things that I know
Well,
about.
I'm
We're
hoping
not-
the Attorney General's office has looked at that and
Right.
realized what I'm asking is not technical company secrets, in my opinion.
No, but the non-disclosure agreement still covers the contract, and although it may not be trade secrets.
How long does it last?
Depends on
Forever?
the contract, no, not forever.
Well, the
Most of the ones that
contract's
I've
up.
seen have been 1 or 2 years,
Yeah.
yes, they're up, but they haven't been up long enough that those would be gone.
If the contracts are up,
Yes.
why can't you send them? That's my question.
If the non-disclosure agreement lasts past that contract date, which most of them do, they continue on for a period of time. Still,
And how long I mean,
normally a year to 2 years in the one class.
okay, some of these are older than that, I believe. I could be wrong, but I believe. Well, I don't know if they're older than that because I can't get to them.
Not the ones that I've seen, but that doesn't mean, yeah.
And I'm through, Ms. Chair.
Thank you, Counselor. Any further discussion on the issue? Counselor Campbell?
Thank you. I guess in an overall general sense, I think the bigger concern is that there are non-disclosure agreements signed that don't allow for the government, all government officials to access information, to see information, and then how it's disclosed and whether or not there's transparency and how that can then be released to the public, because our citizens want to know about things too. So maybe it would be better to address this issue, and I think it's a concern or a problem as well, that there's governance given or when these NDAs can be decided and under what circumstances, so that we know that people could FOIA or GRA that information in a proper manner. I don't know if our chairman has possibly a little bit more input on that or would guide us on that.
Keep the discussion alive or talk offline with the Attorney General's office. Is there any suggestion I have?
I can say as to that, there's nothing that prevents you from coming in and seeing it. Now, there are provisions that sometimes, because of some other category it falls under, like economic development or some of the other categories that completely exempt it, there are reasons that it could be exempted for others. But as to just the non-disclosure agreement, it doesn't prevent you from coming in and seeing it in our office. We don't mask it,
You want
just
to
send out
talk up a
to
little
everybody.
more? You want to talk up a little more, ma'am?
Sorry, we don't just pass it around to everyone, but there's nothing that prevents anyone from coming in and seeing it in our office if they request it. We haven't denied that people can come in and inspect it like the code allows. The act requires that we allow inspection of the documents, which we do. For us to copy them and hand them out as a mass, I guess, mailing to people, that's where the problem comes in when you have these. We're not saying you can't see them. Now, there are instances where we may say you can't for other categories of the code, because there are other ones that they may fall under, like economic development, other things that make them a trade secret. There are other reasons that it could be exempted completely. For the most part, if it's just based on confidentiality or non-disclosure agreement, we will allow inspection in our office. We just won't disseminate that to everyone.
Anything further?
Mr. Chairman, usually if I want to see a document or agreement, there's about 3 things I want to see. The length of the contract, how much of our sovereignty we are waiving in specific on that, and then the amount. Those are really the 3 that I want to see. And most of the time I can walk in and get a booklet, 2 or 4 booklets. When I zero in on those 3 things, then I'm okay, because I don't want to know all the detail. Thank you.
Councilor Keenan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one question. You said that everyone can come look at that in your office.
If they've requested to come in.
Right. So that would include the Cherokee Phoenix.
They've asked for, usually on a FOIA, as long as there's not some other provision in there that prevents it, yes. We would say, if they don't do it through GRA, which you guys are glad to see more, they're able to fall under the FOIA Act, and they aren't exempted from some other provision, yes, we would say. And they would use that.
So just to recap, what you're saying is the best way is to do the request and then come into the office and review
If we
whatever
told
is
them they have to
reviewable.
do it that way, sometimes we give them the copies to do.
But for sure way is to come into the office. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So if I come into your office to review those documents, do I sign anything?
Typically not. Typically not. It depends on what code or what act you're going under. If you're going under GRA, we consider it confidential, consider it exempt. We may require you to, just to make it very clear, like we were doing before, make it very clear, this stuff is very confidential, cannot be released. And that was the case where we said that. We typically don't say you have to sign anything.
Okay, and under the FOIA, under the information that you're allowing people to come in, is it considered confidential?
Depends on the contract. Depends on,
I get a lawyer's answer every time I ask a lawyer a question.
It really does depend on the situation. I can't answer it as a general rule that
If it's confidential, then I can go look at that information, but I can't come back and discuss it with my constituents. So here's where we'll get caught in. If a 10-year-old NDA has been signed and it's been gone for 8 or 9 years, I still can't go look at that and discuss it.
If the NDA has expired, yes, you can get a copy of the contract. The ones that I have seen have not expired.
And how old are they?
Some of them had a term limit that preceded that, so there's,
Are some of them 5, 7, 8 years old?
the actual NDA is based on how long the contract is in place. So it depends on how long the
And
contract.
who authorizes signing NDA?
The executive branch, or most of the NDAs that I've seen signed have been by CNB. Like the answer from that is here from CNB. They do a lot of the NDAs. Typically, when I see it with ours, it's a confidentiality provision. It's a small
And
provision.
does not the AD's office have to also go sign that same NDA?
Not for CNB. Now, if it's a contract for the nation, yes, it runs through our office. And we don't typically do NDAs. There may be a confidentiality provision in some contract for some reason because it's very technical type of contract and because the contractor required that confidentiality provision. But that's not typical for the
It appears to me, and I'll give you this from just a layperson's point of view, so to speak, that some of these NDAs may have been signed to protect not only the companies that are signing them, but forevermore protect the release of this information. Thank you.
I know with CND and the ones that I've seen, they have very technical information they're releasing to people.
Whether it's technical or not,
Right.
you're telling me a lot of it's not technical.
Not on our side, because we don't do the NDAs. I'm saying CND does because they're highly technical. Yes, they're proprietary, yes, right, in what they're releasing. Because they do so much of the high-level business stuff as
Let me
technical.
do one more thing. This is the Cherokee Nation Council. We are shareholders at CNB. The administration is shareholders at CNB. They belong to us. They don't own us, we own them. Thank you. That's all we got.
Council, further discussion? Counselor, have we exhausted the discussion? Do you want to keep this on for another month?
I think I'll just withdraw. I'm going to get the same answer.
No, thank you, sir. All right, item number 9, respecting the Housing Authority Board, Councilor Fisher.
I want to withdraw this because we have already passed it. We just need to appoint 2 new members, and that's what I'm going to put on for next time.
We'll do that next one. Very good, thank you. All right, returning to top of our agenda, we're now back to courts and the marshal. Thank you for your patience, Marshal.
Not at all.
Do we have any questions for the marshal report, or is there anything in particular you need to bring to our attention?
Just that Marshall Green, his actual first name is also Marshall. He leaves out Sunday for Indiana. He's picking up a new dog. We'll kind of talk briefly on that. He'll bring that home, gets a bond with that dog for a week, and then the week after that he goes back up there for 5 weeks of training. So we're going to have a short time when we'll be out of a canine dog, but pretty quickly we'll have one ready and going for the area.
Very good, thank you, Marshal. Any questions for the marshal? Councilor Penelon.
There really weren't any activities at Claremore Indian Hospital?
Not at all.
Okay, and then,
The one at Hastings, we had a couple of tags that needed to be run.
okay.
A reckless driving complaint, a minor theft, and an employee quit.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Marshal. All right, Office of Attorney General. Anything you need to highlight in your report?
We don't have anything to highlight. We provided the report.
Okay, very good. Any questions for the other?
We did get the report, so we'll sit down, I don't know. So, do you have a date on codification?
No, they're still working through it. She's sending us the information we're trying to work through. I think they were working towards.
So I was thinking we discussed last month, trying to get some kind of expected date from them. Okay. And there's no update on the AG website?
We have an AG website.
It's not going to be developed further? Maybe I haven't looked at it since the
Yeah,
initial
everyone's pictures are on
launch.
it. It tells everyone's
Okay.
bios. Everything's there. They've got links to all kinds of cases and all that stuff is there. It's just ag.cherokee.org.
And the Friedman and UKB stuff just still in the same place, just kind of in a holding pattern. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further questions from the General's office? None? Elizabeth, thank you. We now move to anyone from the Election Commission present. We need to get word to the Election Commission to send someone. I know they're very, very busy, but if they can come to answer questions.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
We have gotten reports that no one's received the red cards, and the law says they shall receive the red cards. And then we're concerned that no one's received absentee ballots yet either. I know they would have just mailed on Tuesday, but there were people in our area that should have already received them, and no one's received them today. So can we get written confirmation from the Election Commission that both of those have been, their deadlines have been met and things have been sent?
Yes, we will make that request to the Election Commission. Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yes.
I would like to say something about the election real quick. We're having a problem, a slight problem. In Adair County, we have an old 59 and a new 59, much like 20. And they have divided it up on 2nd Street, which is old 59. When Justice sent over 59 to them to do it, and they divided up on old 59. It's just several, it's not very many people. I could say probably less than 100. It amounts to maybe 3 or 4 blocks. Well, there's some voters in them 3 or 4 blocks, because I have called, they asked me to call. We talked to them, and Wanda is great help. She can talk to Cherokee voters, which they are very much more comfortable talking. She said they will not get to vote this time because they live between the old and the new. They said, but we're going to fix it for next time. So next time, it's going to move from Second Street to 59, and they're not going to get to vote again another year. Do you see what I'm saying? They're not going to get to vote 2 elections in a row.
I'm told the election commission is sending a representative over.
Do you all have any?
The 2015 election, they will not be able to vote for a council race, is that what you're saying?
This is Second Street. This is 59. We said 59. Instead, they divided it on Second Street. So these people in here don't get to vote. But after this election, they're going to move the line back to 59, so everybody on this side can vote. So these people in here ain't going to get to go vote again in 2015.
Has the election commission itself made a determination that they're going to change that line?
Yeah.
They have.
They'll get to vote for chief.
No, they won't get to vote in
They
the
won't.
2015 election either.
For chief deputy.
Oh, yeah, for that, for chief and
But
deputy
won't
they will, but
vote
not
any
for council.
representative.
No, they're not at
They
large.
won't get to vote this.
Inasmuch as a representative from the election commission is coming over, let's move to the next item, and then can we revisit that? So if that's okay with you, Council Commissioner Hawk, we'll get back as soon as we get a rest over here. All right, Tax Commission, Ms. Webster.
I believe you have my report, and I'll try to answer any questions. I do have a couple of updates. I sent out an email this morning, and it's been out through communications. The Collinsville Tag Office is closed today and tomorrow. They're moving into new office space, which is directly behind the current office. So they will be closed. So if you get complaints, I've already gotten some this morning because the office is closed. But it has been put out on the web. It's been put out on Facebook. Communications is trying to get the word out there, but I guess there's some that they're just not going to be able to reach. But it is closed today and tomorrow. Hopefully we'll be back open on Monday, June the 3rd. And we had to schedule everything around AT&T when they could move our T1 line. So I hated to do it at the end of the month, but that's the only time that they could do it. So I was kind of at their mercy.
Council Campbell.
Thank you. Are you involved in the tobacco compact negotiations?
Yes, we haven't really started a whole lot of the tobacco negotiations yet because we've been working on motor vehicle. But I work with Sarah and try to stay involved in it.
Anything you can update us on the motor vehicle?
No, we haven't done anything in a couple of weeks due to the tornadoes and things like that, but hopefully we get that started back up again next week.
Thank you. Thanks, Sharon.
You're welcome. And the other thing I had was the veterans cards. I gave you some copies. We have actually printed some cards, and I don't know if you guys have a preference. If you don't, we will just pick one, but we have printed some cards. They've done some testing at CNB. We've been working with Dina and several other people up there. I think we've got it all worked out where the systems work. They'll be able to use the cards. Probably become effective July 1, and we will be sending those out and getting the cards to them along with a letter that says what they can be used for and where they can be used. Just FYI, in case you get questions, we've gotten a lot of applications from California and other states. And yes, we will process them, but they're not going to be able to use them out there. These cards are only good for retailers that are licensed by Cherokee Nation. So that's the only place these cards are good for. And that will be in the letter that's sent out when we send the cards out. So just in case I think there's some miscommunication going on or misunderstanding going on about where the cards can be used. I spoke with the Phoenix, and I think they will be doing another article on it once we get this up and going and put that information in the paper. So hopefully that will help also. Is there any preference on a card? How you guys want it? I know you'd asked to be involved in it.
Council Bird.
You guys select.
Okay.
You guys do a good job.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that. So July 1st, most likely on getting this implemented and up to date running. So, are there any other questions?
Questions? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Any representative of the gaming? No, I'm sorry, Ms. Handy. Do we have any questions for Ms. Handy? Do we have any? Okay, very good. And we've got your report.
I do want to point out one thing in particular that I wanted to
be sure and make the council aware. It's in my report, but I want to bring attention to the discussions about DOI negotiations, and we have met with the Delaware tribe and submitted a letter not objecting to them receiving their aid to tribal government funds directly from DIA. I know that there have been discussions, some months back in regards to that, and I just wanted to be sure and point that out and keep the council apprised of that.
Thank you, Vicki. I'm sorry, Councilor Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Vicki, on the Delaware agreement, so we are moving towards that they will be directly funded from the BIA rather than passing through or the overhead coming from us?
Yes.
On their funding?
Yes.
Same formula, there's no formula changes or anything on how that money is determined. It's simply that they will get directly from the BIA rather than through us.
Yes, and actually this aid to tribal government fund is basically to run their basic governmental functions. It's not to provide services. In other words, they're like their tribal complex, if you will. So they're not providing services with those funds. And again, they have submitted a request for a 638 contract. If you'll recall, we had some correspondence from the self-governance office last year with the solicitor's office had basically said that the Delaware are getting the benefit of the self-governance or a Title IV tribe, when in fact they are not. So they have agreed that to give us some time to work on transferring those funds directly to them from the BIA rather than it coming through our compact. So again, they submitted a 638 contract request. Part of that is our stating on the record that we did not object to them receiving that. It has no impact funding-wise on our compact for those funds.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Vicki, for that clarification. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Keener.
Thank you, Chair. On that 638, will that, this year, on the compact, that's the way it will work? What they're proposing and asking, and what we're agreeing to, then in the following years, will that morph into going directly to them?
Okay. Our funding agreements are 3-year cycles. The BIA had requested that we make that change during last year. We asked them if we could, we were in the second year of a 3-year cycle. We asked, can we wait and include that in our next MFA, multi-year funding agreement, so that it would affect the next funding cycle rather than in the middle. And they agreed to that. So we are in the process of negotiating our agreement, which is a 3-year agreement, and it would become effective October 1st. The only thing in our agreement is a footnote that states that those funds have been base transferred to us for the benefit of the Delaware. So it comes through to us. Once we're paid, we just transfer that to the Delaware. Now, I'm just talking DOI funds. Not roads, not housing, not anything. I'm just talking DOI. So in our agreement, it doesn't affect, they'll take out those base funds that are for them. We just won't receive it, so we won't pay them. They'll get it directly from BIA.
That was my question. That's starting October 1 this year?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further
But
questions?
keep in mind that the important thing is the timing of that if they take it out of ours, we want them to have their 638 contract in place so that they're not left hanging
what I mean? So that at the time that it comes out of ours, they have an agreement to pick that up.
Thank you.
All right. Do we have a representative of the gaming commission? Mr. Justice, present for the citizenship register update. Councilor Kamala.
And whether they're going to be present or not on the citizenship data, can we get a report on the current number of bad addresses versus good addresses for in jurisdiction versus out of jurisdiction, like in Oklahoma and then out elsewhere? To get an idea of where data is at. Could you ask for that, Mr. Chairman?
All right. Well, I was told a representative of the election commission is coming. Don't think they're here yet. We'll return to their item. Check. Apparently on the way.
They got fruit cups. I didn't want it.
Oh, I don't care. I mean, it's something.
You don't see a simple, you don't understand what I'm saying.
Recess. We could even let them speak it, we could amend the agenda, let them speak it in it. All right, so, yes, sure.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Hummingbird just texted me and said he wanted to apologize that he got called to a meeting away from his office. Took longer than he thought. He just now got back into town. And if you have any questions, please email them or send them, or you can give them to me and I will get them to you either way. But he did apologize for not being here.
Very good, thank you, Chair.
Tell this Hummingbird that's unacceptable.
Okay. I'll tell you.
It don't want to happen again.
So I take Council Bird's suggestion and entertain a motion to adjourn, and we can amend the agenda DNF, and we can hear from the election commission. Motion to adjourn, second, all those in favor say aye. All opposed, same sign.